Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Thank you for being here. So, if there's anything that I would like to be an ally with you with here in the channel, it would have greatly something to do with spiritual growth. Now, why spiritual growth, you ask? Well, it's because I found that as we connect with our spiritual selves, then we tend to be happier internally, and we can be more peaceful internally, and experience less inner conflict. So the world around us might be chaotic. It might, cause chaos from time to time, a lot of challenges, but at least we would be able to sleep at night. So there, essentially. We know that the person that we're with 24/7 is ourselves. So it is imperative that we are able to afford ourselves this actually luxury already during this time. Okay, so there, that being said, as with everything that grows, it starts with a seed, a first step, if you will. So what is this first step or seed to spiritual growth? I found that spiritual growth begins with what we call ego death. And what is ego death? Ego death, by definition, is a sense of losing one sense of self by cultivating a sense of awareness. Now, this definition is a little too psychoanalytic for me, so I would just like to park it a little bit and explain it the way I have come to understand it, okay? So there, I'll just be picking the word awareness in self, actually. Now, awareness, when it comes to awareness in ego death, it is essential that we open not just our eyes, but more our minds and our hearts. Okay, because when it comes to ego death, it's not easy. We're actually digging, digging digging into the root of the problem. Okay, so there, as opposed to losing one sense of self, I would just like to explain it in reverse. So what do I mean by that? As we start our journey in life, we already actually have our basics. We have been created in the image and likeness of God, as we believe as Christians. But take note, this is not about Christianity or anything. Whatever you believe is fine. So there. But um, we have already that intrinsic ability within us to navigate the waves and the storms of life. But then once we step on the path of this denser earthly reality, we we tend to face a lot of challenges. And along the way, if we have walked a certain distance already, we would have experienced heartaches, heartbreaks, oppression, unfair situations, finding ourselves in unfair situations, manipulation, abusive situations, and stuff like that. So there. So what do we do? What we do, consciously or unconsciously, is figuratively we equip ourselves with all the armors that we can. We pick up a shield, we pick up a sword, we wear a cape, um, we wear a cloak, we wear a cape. Like, yeah, we convince ourselves that we can handle everything. So there, I guess that's where the cape would come in. But we could wear a cloak, we could wear a mask, we could wear everything else that could keep us from experiencing hurt over and over. So there, on the other side of things too, sometimes we are exposed to the luxuries of life. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody needs to survive in this material world, but sometimes we could lean a little too much on, our positions, our authority, a sense of having this, having that, having material wealth and stuff. So there's so many things that could be layered upon us as individuals, such that sometimes we don't know anymore who we are. So ego death, in my perspective, is just like tearing down all of these layers and looking at ourselves in the mirror for who we are. Now, um when it comes to ego death, I always like to explain it this way. So it's just like walking around like a judge. So I remember my father used to always say that there are three sides to an argument: your side, my side, and the right side. So there. So especially when we have been hurt a lot already, our initial instinct as human beings is to shield ourselves and to protect ourselves, and to point out our side, our argument, and that's all we see. So there. Now, if we are to go through the process of ego death, then what would be more important for us is the truth over the hurts. So there. So even if it hurts to know that, like, we are at fault, it is something that we muster the courage to face. So there. So something like that. Now, one of the nuggets of wisdom that I am fond of leaving my sign is that, okay, before this it's just funny that a lot of us would like to think that we're perfect, that we know everything, that there's nothing more to learn, and so there's no arguing with us. But it's not exactly the right attitude when we are walking the path of life. So let me go back to one of the nuggets of wisdom that I like imparting with my son, whom actually I can to with talk with about a lot of things right now. And it goes, I always tell him, like, while we're discussing one topic or the other, the moment you think that you're perfect, that's as far as you go, because life is a series of lessons that we learn from. But once, like, once once we think we're perfect, you cannot go further than that already, because that is a self-image that tends to limit you. So there. Another form of ego death also is playing the victim. I know we have gone through a lot of things where we find that, you know things have been unfair, and I am not saying that we were not victimized at one point or the other, or more often than one point or the other. But then, the thing is, let me just cite an example. There was this relationship I had, not necessarily romantic. It could happen in any relationship, where at one point in my spiritual growth, I realized that I couldn't voice out, you know, honestly, my opinions for fear of hurting the other person, because it uh, because I was so careful on I was so careful protecting someone else's feelings, that I suddenly realized, when did it get to this point where I couldn't even speak up anymore. So that was a shocking realization on my part. So there. So even when even during the times when you feel that you have been taken advantage of, you tend to see where you went wrong, and where you went wrong is how you allowed that to happen. So there, so that was a hard lesson for me, which was difficult to overcome, but I tried and I was able to overcome. Now, when it comes to ego death, also, it's not a one time thing. Okay, every now and then you have to check in with your ego, because we're just human beings, and we can slip every now and then. But as we go along, it's so much worth it, so much worth it, because we tend to be more open. We tend to open the channel more to the higher forces that guide us. Okay? So if we know that we're not so defensive anymore, and we're not protecting ourselves from hurt anymore, like for protecting ourselves from all sides, so we can ask ourselves, is this guidance, or is this just coming from me? But as we learn how to, you know, clear the channel between us and heaven, as I want to call it, the more we could be open, and the more that we could hear spiritual guidance. So there. So something like that. Okay. So there. Now, I would just like to wish you all. I hope I left you with something helpful in here, and I wish you the best of luck in your spiritual journeys. I know this is something that a lot of you might have already embarked on. So just good luck in your journeys, and for those who are interested in going through this process, painful as it is really well worth it. And I hope a lot of you would be watching this video, because actually it is very essential in watching the next videos that I will be posting, because just so you could trust your own perspective when it comes to anything that you would be watching in this channel, and maybe also in other channels there, because the best part of ego death is you could learn to trust yourself more, and your decisions more, your opinions more. So there, so you would be able to pick which ones would make sense for you, which ones of the things that I would be talking about would make sense for you, or which ones you'd rather not listen to, and stuff like that. Okay, so there. So it is my wish that we could all just grow in here. So there. So for now, I think that's all. So this is just me, Alvie, saying find your strength, find your peace, and stay with God, Source, Spirit, whatever you conceive Him to be. He loves you so much, whether you know it or not. Bye, guys. Take care.